and welcome to another episode of Subjectively Correct, a movie podcast where a couple of buds discuss different movies each week based on a theme and try to agree more than not, but often maybe do, maybe don't. My name is Josh, and I'm joined by, as always, by Matt.
Hello.
And this week we are tackling, or this month rather, we are tackling the subject of evil wins. Where movies or plot stories where the bad guy wins, or the not the hero kind of typical trope. Which I guess we discussed this after we recorded the last episode and we found out this was the topic, but I guess it kind of spoils the movies that we're going to talk about a little bit. Because you know that immediately, the bad guys are going to win.
Interestingly, I don't think it matters for either of these movies, though. I don't think it takes away from either of those, which is cool.
Because I think both of these movies are more about getting there as opposed to what happens in the end. So let's kick it off with your pick, Matt.
Right.
Tell us all about it and what it is.
Well, I brought to the table The Dirties from 2013, a stone cold modern classic in my eyes. The Dirties is directed by Matt Johnson, also starring Matt Johnson, and also co-written by Matt Johnson, who is also known for his other two big movies, Operation Avalanche in 2016 and Blackberry more recently in 2023. And some people might know him from Nirvana, the band The Show, an early web comedy show. He is co-starring with Owen Williams and then a bunch of basically nobodies, because this is a very it's first of all, it's an indie movie, so no recognizable names in there. And second of all, it's very much focused on these two main characters played by Matt Johnson and Owen Williams. Like I said, it's co-written by Matt Johnson himself with Josh Bowles, who apparently frequently works with Matt Johnson also on his later movies, and a person named Evan Morgan worked on the script as well. And this movie, The Dirties, is a very simple story. It's a school shooter movie where we follow Matt Johnson's and Owen Williams's characters, who are film obsessed high schoolers who struggle with getting bullied and then decide to make a movie where they take revenge on those bullies as a sort of like escapism or some sort of rebellion or whatever. But the problem arises as the line between that fictional movie they're creating and reality sort of blurs, especially for Matt Johnson's character. And the plans for this revenge in their little indie movie basically turn real, so to say. The main character, Matt Johnson's character, is just getting increasingly more delusional and basically using this movie they are making as a shield to avoid real life consequences in a way. So it's a school shooter movie. It has the characters follow very real. The characters read about Columbine. The characters make references to other school shooter movies like The Elephant by Gus Van Sant, which I know we both like as well. And it takes the subject very seriously, I think, but in a weird way, because there's also a lot of comedy in this film, because the characters are high schoolers goofing off, and especially Matt Johnson's character is a super energetic jokester type who doesn't take anything seriously that much, which gives this movie this really odd clash of things with the heavy subject that ultimately culminates in a tragedy, which is not really a spoiler here, as like we said, this is about evil winning, basically. It ultimately culminates in a tragedy that we all see coming, but the path to get there is full of jokes and surprisingly lighthearted scenes. I had the thought earlier that it's kind of a coming of age film gone wrong, because these people do grow up through their typical high school struggles, but maybe they don't grow up that much, but they grow in certain directions in a way.
They develop as characters.
Right, they develop the characters. There's this distance growing between the two main characters as well, to have that interpersonal drama as well. What I love about this movie, though, really is that Matt Johnson's direction and production style, because he has a lot of he clearly helms this project. He is like the mastermind or whatever, for lack of a better word, behind this project. And his philosophy to filmmaking, which also comes out in his other projects, is that he has this there is a through line, there's a pre-planned story, but he always has plenty of room for real life circumstances and improvisation to influence that. Plenty of these scenes here have random bywalkers or onlookers like invade the scene or being involved in scenes in some improvised way, which adds to the overall mockumentary style of this movie, because this is styled as these two people. You're basically watching the movie that these two people are creating as the film goes on. You see them edit the movie that you're watching. You see them plan the movie that you're watching, and it kind of it goes over this fourth wall with the storytelling, which I like a lot, which adds all to this theme of like fiction and reality blurring for the main character so much. One of my favorite scenes in this is when Matt Johnson's character, basically, because he is losing his mind so hard, he basically reads the definition of a psychopath in a book about the Columbine shooting, and is like, dude, hell yeah, dude, that's me. Like, he's so fucked in the head. He's a very disturbed guy, but his character is so energetic and like full of passion for filmmaking or whatever, that you still are kind of there for him, even though you know exactly what he's doing is the worst decision ever and just cannot be excused. And I think playing a character like that is a huge feat. And Matt Johnson does that incredibly well. Owen Williams, his second in command, his best buddy in the movie, also gives a really good position as the character that gives the more straight wall to bounce off of, which makes the dynamic really work. Who goes along until he realizes this is going into a direction that he didn't intend to go. And then, of course, the dramatic develops more. And the overall idea of a character losing himself so much in like an escapist fictional form with this movie making to like avoid actually taking head on the real life circumstances of what he is doing is a really interesting subject to me as well. It all just makes a really nice, tight-knit and concise, short character study that I like love. I've seen this movie so many times. I really love this. Well, I've rambled on a ton now. Maybe I should ask you what you thought about this, especially like maybe in comparison to other movies like Elephant, which we both have talked about off camera before.
I think it's really hard to watch this and not compare it to something like Elephant.
Yeah.
When you've seen Elephant, which, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, is another school shooting movie, but very different to this one in its tone and method and presentation, and very Gus Van Sant, who directed it as well. Like, it's very his style. But we're not talking about that anyway. But I love that movie. That was really, I just love the way it was made. Everything about it. It was really good.
I love Elephant too.
Yeah. So I did, think about that a little bit when I was watching this one because it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It didn't spoil this one for me either, or I didn't end up really comparing them because they do have a different take on similar subject matter.
And they do it. I mean, this movie does reference elephants, so it's fully like aware that you are,
Well, that's one thing I kind of, it took me a while to kind of understand was getting to know the characters, because at the beginning they're making this film, about bullying in the school, and they're a couple of dorks who get bullied a lot, so they're basically just telling their own story and that kind of thing. But yeah, the dude is so into movies that he ends up just using all these lines from other movies in his movie. Like they do the Pulp Fiction thing when they're walking down the corridor and they're talking about the Royale with cheese, and he does a whole bunch of other lines from other films, and that's basically all the lines that are in his movie that are planned are from just ripped from other films. Like they're not even original. But I think that speaks to, like you say, later in the film, it took me a while to kind of get used to, but after the bit you mentioned where he's talking about what makes a psychopath, and he's like getting excited because like, hey, that's me. That's exactly what I'm like, and that's how I feel, and everything. And at first I thought that was a bit on the nose, but then as it kind of then continued on for the rest of the film, I kind of went, actually, yeah, he's actually portraying a psychopath quite well, because he has no concept of his own little reality is totally removed from what is actually happening around him. As in, yes, he gets bullied, and yes, it's bad and all that kind of thing, and so he feels like he wants to take revenge, all that kind of stuff. But the whole conceptual idea of, he's just constantly wanting to make this movie, and wouldn't it be cool if we actually did kill people instead of pretending to, and without any kind of idea that might be bad or that perhaps you shouldn't do that. And that kind of distance that does form between the main character Matt and the other guy Owen. And because Owen then starts getting more accepted by the other people around him as well, like he starts actually hanging out with people and making friends and talking to the people who are basically the cool club who are bullying them. So, he's starting to develop in a different way as well, which I think is quite interesting, because he takes on the more kind of quote unquote normal every person kind of attitude, which is, to be horrified by these sorts of things. Whereas, the main guy, Matt, he is kind of one note for the whole film, but that kind of plays into that psychopathic kind of behavior where he doesn't have a lot of emotional range, and he doesn't have a lot of empathy for one, or self-reflection in that sense.
No,
like he is pretty much just focused on the one thing he wants to do, and that's it from start to finish. And that's what I mean, where it took me a little minute to kind of get used to that, because I was like, oh, this is it felt a bit like one note, like what is this character? But after considering that, hang on, he's actually playing a real kind of psychopathic kind of character, it grew on me a lot, and I really enjoyed his performance, and I really enjoyed the way he was written, quote unquote, because yes, a lot of it would be improvised. But I liked the way that his character was portrayed and put on screen basically. The thing I didn't quite get though, which maybe, I don't know, there might be more to it that I missed. But yes, they're making this film, but we as the audience are constantly watching it through essentially what is two other people, or one or two other people, who are following them around for the entire film and filming it. And making the movie. But other than a couple of instances where they refer to the camera guys directly, the main story is about the two guys, like Matt and Owen, making a film together and, putting it together and editing it and doing all that kind of stuff. But the whole time we're watching it as if there's a doco crew following them around without any explanation is the thing that kind of got me. Like, I kind of feel like it would have worked just as well if it was a standard kind of fly on the wall kind of, esoteric kind of camera where we're just watching it from a kind of godlike perspective like we do in other movies. I don't think we needed the handy cam kind of perspective of a documentarian following them around. For me, that didn't really add much. It just kind of felt a little bit confusing.
Here's the thing with that, because I was thinking about that a lot as well on this rewatch. I do think it adds a lot because that element gives the characters actual like hands-on opportunity to reflect on and react on what they are doing, as we see them edit these scenes of what they have done previously and then comment on it. So this real.
But don't you think they could have done that anyway, even if it wasn't presented as like a doco? Do you know what I mean?
I guess so, but then I guess it would like remove this whole meta narrative of this. You're watching this documentary that they are making. I do.
It just kind of felt a bit weird at times.
No, I do agree that this is probably the aspect of the film that most teeters to like breaking the whole concept, because it is so. You do wonder who the hell these people are. Yeah, I don't think they are ever named. I couldn't even figure out. I mean, looking at the cast list, I don't think there are any people assigned to those roles. It's just the cameraman, I guess. These are basically non-existent characters, but they are apparently one or two other friends of the main characters just helping out with the film. But I kind of...
I feel like that...
I also love how vague that is.
Well, and I think that's why it felt kind of weird to me, because you feel like at some point there would have been some footage of them actually talking to each other and discussing what's happening.
Right.
Other than there's a few moments like, when they're editing and stuff, especially I love the bit at the end where the main character Matt is editing the end credits.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'll render this, but you'll have to put it in the film afterwards because, he knows he's about to go shit up at school.
I love those details.
He's not going to be able to finish the film kind of thing. So, I like that. And that's what I mean. It wasn't enough to like kill the movie for me or anything. It just, there were moments and there were areas where I thought it is kind of weird. Like you think there would be a bit more interaction, I guess, between the camera guys and the dudes making the film. However, if I'm being generous and thinking about it a little bit deeper, perhaps that is part of the kind of surrealist nature of this story and this perspective where these things happen, which are very unreal and very, niche and unique and different. And we're talking about a perspective from a character who is very different and unique and, has a very different way of thinking about things compared to, everyone else, like the normal person with like a moral compass. But
No, he has a moral compass. He frequently says he's only there to kill the bad guys. He clearly has a moral compass.
But it's like, that's kind of what I like about it though, like because that almost is like a learned thing. It's almost like he doesn't empathize, he doesn't emotionally understand. That the whole thing behind that and why he hates them and wants to kill them or whatever. It's more, well, I know that it's okay because they're the bad guys, so I'm going to kill them. So I actually don't understand why everyone else is bothered by that, because in movies at least and in stories and stuff, that's how it goes, and that's what the good guy does. And it's kind of very matter of fact, which kind of leads into that psychopathy kind of thing where he doesn't actually understand the emotional or the empathetic side of it, of what other people might feel or think.
There's also a scene in that vein, like where we watch him after the conflict between him and his friends like opens up a bit more, and Owen's character does go more into the like regular socializing with other people. There's this scene where we watch Matt's character, or Matt, I guess they are called the same way. So we see Matt edits this super cheesy, corny, dramatic montage of his friends, and then goes around looking at the camera and saying something like, "What am I doing here? This is not me. I don't do this." which also very much like he's doing something that he thinks would be appropriate because that's how people show empathy or whatever, but that's not how he actually feels. I love this sort of things.
It's that thing of like, it's kind of like I've learned that, like, let's say I'm emotionally bankrupt and challenged. I might learn that, okay, while everyone around me is looking sad and crying, maybe I should also look sad and crying, even if I don't feel that way. Like if I'm standing at a funeral, I know I need to look sad and not happy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's like a learned response. It's not just a natural emotional response, like that we don't, you or I or most normal people don't think about that because we just react emotionally, and it is appropriate because that's what we do.
Yep.
But if you're, unable to do that and you lack empathy and all that kind of thing, you can also then learn how to react to things just purely by, knowledge essentially and mimicking behavior. And it feels like that's the kind of thing that he was doing where, he is kind of like, why did I just do this big cheesy thing? Like I felt like that was correct, but I don't really like it anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah.
And, and especially I think the very, very end of the film, like the last line, which I won't spoil just because, but when he basically, he goes in and he shoots a couple of kids in the school, and then he catches up and he finds Owen, his best mate, who's terrified and trying to run away from him. But the way he talks to him is just like, hey, how's it going, man? Like, like he's got no concept that this guy would not be his friend anymore. He's just like, yeah, I did what I was talking about. How cool was that? Kind of thing. Like, like it's very, very, has no empathy at all and no kind of concept of how someone else might be reacting to what he's done. And I actually really like that. I think that was a really good way to kind of end the film because it kind of caps off that characterization quite nicely.
I also liked all the sort of self-awareness where he, throughout the whole planning phase, he's actually like surprised himself how easy it all is. Like the whole scene where he gets the blueprints of his school from some office and they just give it to him, and he goes like, isn't it crazy that they just give this to you? Shouldn't they like check who I am or whatever? Yeah. It's just something. It's wild to me how this movie about such a dire and like heavy subject is also able to be so funny and entertaining without diminishing from the actual horror, I think, from the actual tragedy.
Yeah. Well, and I think if I get to what I like most about the film, it was probably that in itself, where, like, not the blueprint thing, but the the presentation of the whole story, because the story is pretty, whatever. We've seen it before in different ways, but I did really like the way it was presented as far as, and this is kind of similar to, I think, Elephant, where the reason I like that as well, both of these films were kind of presented in a way where they just kind of showed you what happened. They didn't have to give you like a big dramatic score to let you understand that bad things are happening, or there's no like huge moments where you go, aha, this is what caused it, or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just these characters, and they, in both films, but, especially in this one, they go along their way. And as things happen, I think this one perhaps does a little bit more of trying to show why Matt acted the way he did, because there's all the bullying and all that kind of stuff that seems to be more of a feature than it was in, say, Elephant. But that's okay, because it still worked, I think. And yeah, there are some key moments where like all his clothes and everything when he's in gym gets put in the shower and soaked, including his phone and everything. And even that, like, he doesn't really react very much. Like, he's obviously not happy about it, but he's more like pissed that he has to call his mum on a payphone and get her to bring some clothes down to the school. And that's all a big hassle, because then he's got to explain stuff to his mum and, blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't seem like upset too much, really. And I like that they didn't have him then, like, getting really pissy in the corner, brooding and being like, I'm going to kill those guys, I'm going to get back at the, there's a little bit of that, but in a very light-hearted kind of way.
Yeah.
It's not like overhanded, heavy-handed, and trying to be too dramatic. It's very matter of fact and very realistic in that sense. I think it feels very grounded in the way that the story develops.
Speaking of it feeling grounded, maybe I'm speaking out of my own ass here, but I feel like this is some of the most authentic or believable old people playing high schoolers that I've seen in any media. I feel like Matt Johnson and Owen Williams truly walk as high schoolers, even though they are definitely already much older. And it's such a
I mean, I didn't really think about it that much at all, but now you mention it, I'm like, yeah, they obviously are older, but I didn't consider it at the time.
Right, and it's such a cliche that high schoolers are never a realistic age or whatever in movies.
But I think, I mean, they're still quite young, I would say, or at least they're made to look quite young.
I think Matt Johnson just has a face that always looks young in a way.
But their clothing especially and everything was, very high schooler.
I think it did also. Dude, he's born in 1961? No, that's okay. I'm looking at the wrong Matt Johnson. This was okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that can't be right.
It would have been wild. I don't know.
This film was made in 2013. That would make him.
No. Yeah, never mind. I would have. But considering
this dude is not 60.
Here we go. 1985. So he was what? He was.
Okay, so he's a few years younger than me.
28 when this film came out.
Yeah. Well, good on him then. Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah. Probably also
they definitely because they didn't look weirdly, not like Grease kind of high school students.
Yeah. It probably also helps.
Yeah, they managed to pull it off.
I think they really just had a lot of these sets filled with actual high school aged people, so they really blend in, I guess.
Yeah.
So the locations felt authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it definitely felt like they did. Yeah, film it in a school, but by the same token, the school I felt like didn't actually feature that much.
No,
itself, like as a location, like it didn't really matter. It just kind of happened to be that's where they were. If anything, like their film class was kind of featured a bit more than anywhere else, because they do have a film class where they show their films and they see other students' films and stuff, and that leads to more bullying as well because. They make a film about bullying, so all the bullies start bullying them some more.
Yeah, I've been having the Malkovich song stuck in my head for days now. What a scene!
That just is another example of how funny and stupid, or how just misguided this dude is. Like we were saying, like a lot of the written lines are straight out of movies, and then in this one scene, he's playing like his sexy girlfriend.
Yeah.
But it's himself playing his own sexy girlfriend. And she's singing like a sultry song in a club.
Malkovich.
All the lyrics of Malkovich.
Repeated.
Yeah. Like, I'm just like, what the But, maybe someone would think that that's kind of arty because it's Malkovich. And
yeah, I wonder if that was, a reference to the actor or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, he goes in with
I'm sure it had to do with something to do with like John Malkovich himself.
Then of course he goes in with the expectation or hope that he would be perceived by his classmates as like some sort of boundary breaking genius or whatever, which is not happening. Which all adds,
because at the end of the day, it's just a shitty little film that
adds to his like degradation, basically. So much cool shit.
Yeah.
I love movies about filmmakers. And this is such a cool use of that.
Well, and I think that's where the only real bit that didn't work for me was the fact that we were watching it from a couple of guys who are basically making a doco of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a delicate
who
part.
We never meet and we never see, and it's kind of weird. But at the same time, that's why I was, I say like maybe being generous because I'm kind of looking into it for the sake of it. But every other movie, we are watching it through a camera that's being held by someone anyway, even if we're not meant to know.
Right.
Or realize, or consciously realize. So maybe that's part of the point where in this one, we're very much conscious that there are people filming them as part of the whole process. But I still don't really understand why.
I do feel, at the same time though, I feel like they really hit the nail with how minimal and vague they've been about those people. Like the fact that we don't even know if it's like 2 or 1 other friend that's
Yeah.
filming them, but it's still not.
Well, I feel like there's this one bit where they're watching like movies at
Yeah.
Matt's house, and he turns to the camera and he says, "Hey, do you guys want some popcorn?"
I think so as well.
And it was quite surprising because you don't expect him to address the camera anyway.
Maybe he is actually talking to the audience right there. Do we want some popcorn?
But there's an arm that kind of reaches out and grabs some popcorn from behind the camera. So it kind of confirms that there are at least one person, but multiples, because the way he says, "Hey, you guys." And I thought that was really interesting because it seemed very purposeful as well. Like, because it doesn't happen all the time. It's not like he's always referring to the camera guys or talking to them or anything. And that's like the first time he actually addresses them directly. And that's what I mean. It's quite surprising in a way. Like, I was like, "Oh, hello. You're talking to me now."
Yeah. Which is also, I feel like that's probably intended as well for us, sort of addressing us as the audience. We are watching a fictional story, even though we know these sort of school shooting developments do happen like at the same time. I think that's all like on purpose.
But yeah, it kind of adds to that, and it adds to that, I want to say like uneasiness or strangeness of the experience.
Yeah.
And the story itself, because, you know, it is strange. Not everyone ends up shooting up a school.
Not everyone.
You know, having those sorts of reactions. So I think it's meant to be strange and a bit unsettling in that sense, as well as being quite entertaining, like you say.
Yeah. I love this movie, yeah. So, what would you rate it, though? We need the cold numbers.
I'm feeling like for me it's sitting on. Again, it's hard not to compare it to Elephant, and I think I did prefer Elephant overall.
Right.
Just because it's more my kind of movie. As in, very much show, don't tell.
Yeah.
And that movie's kind of like a masterclass in show, don't tell, really, in my view. But this one, though, I really did enjoy it, and I really did think it was interesting, and, you know, it gave me something new for something that's quite familiar. Like, you know, we've all heard those stories and we've seen other movies and stuff.
Yeah.
But it put it in a different light. It presented it in a different way and made it a bit more interesting. Or, well, you know, it was interesting because it was a bit different. So I reckon I'd probably sit on about maybe like a 4 out of 5, like 8 out of 10 for this one.
Hell yeah.
Like,
we love to hear
it's a strong film. Like, you know, it's not perfect. There are things that I'm not sure about or that confuse me or, you know, I have questions.
Right.
But but overall, I thought it was, a really interesting piece and really worth the watch, and really, kind of told that story again in a fresh and different way that was quite surprising at times as well, which I always enjoy. So yeah, I'd probably give it a solid like 8 out of 10.
Hell yeah.
How about you?
Yeah.
Where does it sit for you?
I'm just a tad above. I'm with the 9 out of 10 right now. Though this movie has like gained like more stars or points or whatever over the years. So maybe it's gonna be up there at the 10 out of 10 someday. I do genuinely love this movie. I've seen this countless times by now, and I have frequently said that Matt Johnson is one of my favorite walking filmmakers ever. Maybe even the favorite, because his like I said, his philosophy to filmmaking is such a unique one, and I love how much he lets real life circumstances bleed into his projects. With his later film Operation Avalanche, that is probably even more so in there. Like I wholeheartedly recommend to anybody who's into the craft of filmmaking to watch his movies, because they're so unique in how they are made.
Crafty.
Yes. All right.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
No, that was a good one. It's interesting as well, just to go back to the topic. Like, it is evil wins, but it's kind of like the thing I liked about this, as far as the way it fit into that topic, was, of course, anyone who shoots up a school can definitely be defined as evil.
Yeah.
However, throughout the film, you're kind of like, well, the bullies are the bad guys, and the other kids who kind of give him shit and give him a hard time and all that kind of stuff, they're the bad guys.
So it's okay. Just like Matt
no, I'm
says.
not saying it justifies it, because then he becomes the bad guy. So it's kind of a bit of a unexpected kind of twist.
Right.
Not that it's much of a twist, because we all know what's going to happen. But yeah, he might not start off necessarily as the bad guy. He kind of starts off as more of the victim, but then becomes the bad guy, very much so.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that.
Evil wins by corruption.
It's a good kind of character arc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that whole psychopathic kind of side of it is very interesting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, good stuff.
All right.
Definitely worth a watch.
Okay, and then I guess it's time to see how your evil wins. What flavor of evil have you brought?
So this one is probably a film that I believe more people have at least heard of, if not seen already, because it was a bit of a big deal when it came out. And if you've read the title of the episode, you probably know it. It is 2023's Saltburn, which is directed and written by Emerald Fennell. Basically became known for doing a film called Promising Young Woman in 2020. Again, I think she wrote and directed it, if I'm not mistaken. Interestingly enough, though, that film I didn't really enjoy, because there are a few key parts that I think kind of ruined it, where it was making a very good point about very much like Me Too movement stuff and, women taking charge of their own bodies and naming and shaming kind of disgusting men who take advantage of women in many different ways. And that's all cool. But then there were a few aspects of the main character that I think just kind of spoiled it, because it diminished the value of what the main point of the film was. But anyway, that's a different film. We're not talking about that one. We're talking about Saltburn, which is, I believe, her last one, which was last year. It's starring Barry Keoghan, who I didn't know before watching this film, but I kind of recognize him a little bit. He's been in heaps of films like Dunkirk. He's been in a Batman film. He's been in The Green Knight. He's been in Chernobyl. He's been around. He's done a bunch of stuff. I think this is kind of like one of his first main leading roles, I want to say, or at least one that kind of put him out there, as now he's really well known. It also stars Jacob Elordi, who I also didn't really know much before this. He's a bit of like a teen heartthrob kind of actor.
Yeah.
He's been in the Kissing Booth movies. He's been in like a bunch of basically teen romance shit, because he's a bit of a hunky dude.
Oh, yeah.
So,
sure is.
Stars Rosamund Pike, who is probably best known for Gone Girl, but she's also in a bunch of other stuff like Pride and Prejudice and I Care a Lot, that was pretty big recently, a few years ago, really. She was in the Doom movie, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, boy.
It's got Richard E. Grant, who I love, and he's been in pretty much everything. So if you don't know who Richard E. Grant is, what are you doing? Go watch the Spice World movie. He's awesome. Alison Oliver, who I didn't really know much before this, and it doesn't look like she's done heaps before this one. She's one of the main characters in this, though. And Archie Madekwe, who is also one of the main characters. He was in Midsummer, which I've yet to watch because it's like horror kind of stuff, isn't it?
Well, yeah, kind of.
Isn't it like a culty film?
Yeah, culty with lots of anxiety. That's the horror there, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think I've definitely, it's on my list to watch, but yeah. And he's been in some other ones, like I've actually seen Teen Spirit, and he was in Love, Death and Robots, an episode of that.
And Gran Turismo.
Yeah, he's been around a bit as well. And finally, what's her name? Carey Mulligan is in this as well. And if you don't know who Carey Mulligan is, then yeah, look her up. She's been in heaps of shit. So pretty stacked cast, you know. This is one of those films that it's a big film. It's a big name director because Emerald Fennell is kind of like up and coming and someone to watch. And all the cast are pretty much similar, or, you know, people like Richard E. Grant who are just, you know, they come with a pedigree. And basically, to put this film really, really quickly, Barry Keoghan's character essentially goes to this, like an Ivy League school. I can't remember which one. I think it's like Cambridge or Yale
Oxford.
or something. Or Oxford, that's the one, yeah. It's English, of course. Or is it?
It's English, British,
anyway.
yeah.
Cool. And he goes and he's basically like a bit of an outsider kind of character at the school. And Jacob Elordi's character is Mr. Hunky Popular Rich Boy, who Barry Keoghan kind of looks up to and basically wants to be more like, and ends up befriending in such a way that then Jacob Elordi's character invites him back to their family home called Saltburn, which is a big fuck-off mansion in the country, and they go stay there for the summer as mates. And that's where then I believe he meets the parents, which are Richard E. Grant and Rosamund Pike. Alison Oliver's his sister. Archie Madekwe's his other friend. And they meet a whole bunch of different characters and that sort of thing. And the story kind of evolves to reveal along the way that Barry Keoghan's character may have ulterior motives as he goes along. And it reveals more and more throughout the film until we realize that he's actually quite obsessed with this family and with each character that exists in the family, and is basically coveting them and their, not so much money, but status, I think, and their power and their position as rich people who live a very different and extravagant life. And they're a bit mental as well, to be fair. Like, yeah, they are quite removed from regular people again, like similar to in the Dirties, but especially Richard E. Grant as the father. I love him because he's basically this eccentric, super rich guy who has no touch on reality at all. And throughout the film, essentially, we see Barry Keoghan kind of dismantle the family unit while staying at Saltburn and essentially manipulate them all into essentially eating each other, metaphorically speaking. And it collapses and kind of takes over in the end and becomes basically the sole owner, I guess, or heir to the entire fortune and the estate and everything. So it's very much, he does not have positive motives, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more. But yeah, the story is about him and his obsession and how it kind of plays out with, he manipulates every little character and like plays them off each other and spins stories and lies, and in order to manipulate the outcome of circumstances and insert himself into scenarios where perhaps he wouldn't belong otherwise. But yeah, that's the basic gist. I really liked it because it's not flawless. There are a few problems I have with the plot. Like, at the end, they do the whole thing where he's like, I'm going to tell you everything I did and I reveal all my little plans. I almost wish that he didn't do that, because there are certain parts where I'm just like, I didn't need to know that. Like, I'd like to have a bit of a question mark over whether he did actually plan to do something or not. Because the story turns out, he ends up telling you that basically he was planning from the very, very beginning, and it's very calculated how he, met Jacob Elordi's character, became friends, inserted himself into his little world, and started then systematically basically breaking up the family, and even to the point of having them kill each other, or not each other, but kill themselves. And yeah, there's some intense parts and some really extreme kind of outcomes. But yeah, we can talk about that anyway. What's your initial thoughts?
Well, Saltburn is a movie that I have been recommended by other people as well. So I had my eyes kind of on this, but I had no idea what this was. I went into this basically completely blind, and that's probably maybe
nice.
I mean, okay, right. I knew that evil would win since we did this for this episode. Yeah. But other than that, I went in completely blind. I didn't know what the evil was, right? And I think that's probably like the best way to get in there, maybe. But I also, because this is set up initially as Barry Keoghan's character being romantically obsessed with hunky-dory Jacob Elordi. It probably took me way too long to realize that this isn't actually a romantic obsession, but actually obsessed with wanting to be that person or their status. So I watched most of the movie with this being like a romantic drama, basically, and was really.
I think that's the intention. Like,
no.
That's what they want you
It's
to think.
definitely, yeah, it's definitely intended that way. And I was waiting for the evil to show up. So when it finally like did culminate and reveal itself at the end, it was actually like, oh, yeah, okay, that was actually pretty cool. And I agree. I think with you that they didn't need to really like explain every bit of detail in their little explanation montage at the end. I do think a little bit of that does make sense, but I don't think it needed to be like every little step. It's maybe a bit much. And I also do. There's a couple things that I think where the film might tell the audience a bit too much. There was this may be a little bit nitpicky, but there was one sequence where he is talking to the girl in the bathtub, where she is realizing what he is doing. And she has this awesome line where she says, I thought you were a spider, but you're really just a moth. And it should have the dialogue should have just ended there, because it's very obvious what it's meant. The moth is going to the flame because he's chasing the fame and status of these people. Didn't need to be explained, but they do go on to a lengthy explanation of what she is trying to say with that, which that's like the sort of details that are kind of, it's a little bit of a bummer in this film. Not that it takes away that much from this movie.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
Yeah, right. But overall, this was kind of a great like ensemble little like a stage play, basically, like a character study stage play. I wouldn't even be surprised if this was originally like a stage play script or whatever. It would work incredibly well. And with all the references to like Shakespeare and whatnot, maybe that's even intentional. I feel like maybe you have something that maybe you can enlighten me there, but I feel like this movie has probably a lot of references to maybe older English literature. I feel like there's opportunity for that, but I'm too dumb.
I don't know if there's anything that I would say is direct, but I mean, when I watch things like this, I don't necessarily go looking for that sort of stuff.
Right.
Whereas I know other people do. They're like, oh, they must be referencing this and that. I feel like it's more just because they're this kind of like Ivy League students who are studying literature and all this kind of stuff. So they really get, they dive into poetry deeply and they study Shakespeare and, all these kind of things. So it is kind of a bit of a backdrop, as in like that's kind of what part of that, and knowing those things and being well read and understanding those sorts of artistic endeavors is part of being like an aristocrat in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's part of being wealthy and well educated and, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it goes much further than that as far as just the references, beyond the fact that, there's plenty of examples in Shakespeare of similar kind of stories, like not exactly this, but similar stories where there's mistaken identity and there's people usurping others and taking their roles and power and whatever and wealth and all that kind of thing. But I still think this kind of stands on its own quite uniquely for its own story. But it falls within those sorts of realms, I think, and it's not unreasonable to draw those connections a little bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And I totally agree with the fact that, like that line where I thought you're a spider, but you're actually a moth. They could have just left it there.
Yeah, that would have been so good.
And that would have said everything. Oh. Because that reveals that she's got his number.
Yeah.
Even though at the time she's wrecked and suicidal, and even though he's kind of already won, she's revealing that she knows, even though he's won, she's kind of figured it out. And it didn't need to go further than that. Whereas I feel like that's kind of the downfall of this movie in general, is there's a few moments where it is like, see how clever I am?
Yeah, there's also, there's another thing that was kind of on the nose, like towards the end, they have the big birthday party, the Midnight Summer's Dream themed birthday party where they all got like costumes on. And they literally have the hunky-dory, what's his character's name? Felix. Hunky Dory Felix,
yeah.
has the angel wings, while our evil protagonist has like horns, antlers on his head, which is also like, you know exactly what they are doing. I'm sure there's even a meaning with the other like more minor character played by Archie Madekwe wearing a donkey costume. I'm sure there's something there that I'm not getting. I really feel.
Well, I mean, it could be referencing like, some Grimm's fairy tales and stuff as well, because like there's a fairy tale about a donkey who kind of fits Archie's character a little bit as like a bit of an outsider, but kind of uses the donkey outfit to get back in with people and that kind of thing. So, they could be referencing that sort of stuff. I didn't mind that stuff so much, even though it is kind of, it's very clear the visuals they're trying to portray.
Yeah. No, it didn't like ruin the scenes or whatever. It was just a bit of like, okay, I get it. Though, speaking of, real quick, speaking of Archie Madekwe, I think that was one of my favorite one of my favorite performances in this. I love the guy. I've seen him before in the goddamn Gran Turismo movie, which like is fine.
Yeah.
But like I love the guy, and
I've seen that too,
Yeah, and it's cool to see him here in like a pretty interesting character. I actually would have loved to see his character be even more in like the center of attention.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I think is, kind of an elephant in the room with this film is that there are a number of scenes that are very much meant to be quite shocking and in your face.
Yeah.
And I've seen reviews and stuff of people basically who talk about it like they were just disgusted throughout the whole film, and it's just a it's gratuitous for the sake of it instead of actually having a point. Whereas I kind of disagree. I kind of think all the scenes in here and the choices that were made of, especially the more out there kind of stuff, like there's, some pretty interesting bits and bobs that maybe we can name or not. I don't know. It feels like major spoilers.
This is you really should see these movies before you watch these.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, you should have watched the movie already. Because you probably already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so. But like, speaking of the disgusting things, I need to shout out all the fluids in this. It's so good.
Yeah.
We got a beautifully disgusting vomited on sink early on. We got like amazing eating out a pussy on the period with the amazing line where he says, "Lucky for you, I'm a vampire." I was living for that shit. And we got, of course, the slurping out the cummed in bath water juice. Like, this movie got it all. I was very excited for this.
And then there's the naked on the graveyard. On the grave.
I forgot.
Having sex with the dirt.
Literally fucking his grave. I cannot believe this.
But I love all those extremities though, because I think it without those, Oliver's, like the main character, his obsession and his drive and commitment to, achieving his goals, essentially, it doesn't make, if those things weren't there, it wouldn't make as much sense. Like, but I feel like those sorts of scenes really show just how he is just, literally obsessed, to the meaning of the word. Like, he is driven and focused and completely compelled by the need to, take over and embody and become these people that he looks up to and obviously, admires and all that kind of thing. But his method is by basically, messing with them enough that they end up all kind of killing themselves or, whatever. Different ways of dispatching them from the family.
Yeah.
And I really liked all those. I think they worked. I think they were like some of the strongest parts of the film, really, because for me it made sense. But I know it's put off a lot of other people, and I think it's just gross.
I mean, it's a point, right?
Gratuitous stuff. But that is the point, I think. Like, it speaks to his whole character, the fact that he does those things. And that I think it also speaks to the fact that, especially like the grave at the end, it speaks that his character's not just performative, like he's not just doing it for other people's
Right.
witness or having an audience, because he's very much, or the bathtub, it's very much an intimate thing for him. Like, he's not doing it for anyone else to see or notice, or he's even trying to hide it, because it's more about his own obsession rather than trying to perform for other people or anything like that. And I think that highlights that stuff very, elegantly.
And I love with these scenes with the grave fucking and I guess the cum slopping. When you go in this movie still thinking this is a romantic obsession, it's like, yeah, okay, this guy is like a weird kink freak, but like I get it, it's love or whatever, who cares? But then as it's revealed that it's really just about egotistical status thieving, that gives it an even more disgusting layer on top, which is super super effective, really.
And that's why I loved how, how well characterized each character was as well. Like, after Felix dies and the family are like having dinner and their officials kind of moving the body out and stuff, so they close the curtains and pretend like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And and they're just having dinner. It's the most mental scene.
Yeah.
Because they're all grieving, but then pretending like none of this happens, like la-di-da, everything's fine, don't worry about it. But I think that scene in particular sticks with me because it says so much about their family and people of that kind of status and that kind of eccentric, aristocratic kind of nature. And they're ridiculous as a result.
Yeah. I for long stretches of time, I didn't even know if I was supposed to take these rich people characters serious or not, because they feel so. At least some of them feel so much like cartoony character stereotypes or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the end, it still worked. The eccentricism worked. Although, and us maybe did you notice this? I mean, they are in this big fuck off rich mansion and whatever. They have a whole library of like all Shakespeare and whatnot. But there's multiple scenes. Every time a character reads a book, it's fucking Harry Potter. Did you notice this?
Yeah.
It's fucking Harry Potter is the only thing they read. But
it's like But to me, that's like when Oliver first shows up and meets the family, like they're all sitting down watching some like stupid movie on a small TV. Like, it's not like an extravagant thing. And to me, that kind of speaks to that type of aristocrat, like that old money kind of aristocrat who's just always had so much wealth, and they are a bit eccentric, and it's not like everything's shiny and flashy and like big screen TVs and that kind of thing. It's usually pretty basic, and they're, they've got the old couch that's been in the house for 300 years kind of thing, and it's falling apart, but it's an heirloom, so they keep it, it's that kind of stuff. And I think that really kind of illustrated that a lot with a lot of the sets and the furniture and all that kind of stuff. So I really like that element of it, because I think it speaks to that kind of, that kind of money, really, and status, which is its own thing. It's a bit different to, like your Bitcoin bros or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe they deserve to die, man. Reading Harry Potter all the time. It was crazy.
What do you think about the very end scene, like the dance?
Oh, right. Oh my God, I forgot. I was watching that. I see the dance and I thought Abby is gonna fucking love this. Because I remember the dancing scene in Ex Machina, which you loved so much, and this gave me a similar vibe. Yeah, that was pretty good. Not a bad ending at all. Yeah.
Plus, it's murder on the dance floor, so I'm a fan.
Yeah, right.
It was a great soundtrack choice.
It was dick flopping
great, amazing
around.
performance, I think.
Oh yeah, no, that was great.
But I like, well, to speak to that as well. Like, there's full male nudity in the film, and. But I like that. I like when there's not pulling punches. Like let's all grow up. Yes, we know this is what bodies look like, but this is precisely what his character would do. Like, he wouldn't cover up or be modest.
No.
Like at that point, he'd go fucking all out, dance around the whole house naked because he can, and it's his place now, and he owns it. And he'd mess around with their little rocks and stuff that symbolize them dying. You know, he would be in his element, and he would not be putting on some shorts, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I love that because it's very true to the character, I felt, and I think that's what I liked about, you know, a lot of those elements in the movie where each character, their actions and their decisions, and you know the way they react to Oliver as well, is very much true to their character, and not, not Hollywoodized for want of a better word, like not glossed over for whatever reason. And I think that's what I like about this film in general is just it doesn't hold back really.
Yeah, no.
Even if it's a little pleased with itself for not holding back.
Though it also has like this super good presentation, like visually. So it's kind of allowed to be pleased with itself, honestly. It's some amazing shots every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, this was a good one. I'm glad you made me watch this. Yeah, I mean, I had this on my radar because other people recommended this as well, but I'm glad you made me watch this.
Well, I'm glad you did. I thought you would like it, but I'm glad you did because, like I say, it's a very divisive film for obvious reasons because it's not, it's not generic in a lot of ways.
The more disgusting, like, bodily fluids you got in there, the more I'm on board. So that's an easy way to get me.
That's what I thought. I figured you'd be down with that.
Good.
Yeah, you'd be like, I love these suits. And I mean, you said it yourself. I knew you'd love the whole, but I'm a vampire.
Dude, that that killed me, man. Fuck.
But even that, like, I love that little story itself, like how he manipulates, I forget her character's name. Let me say, Venetia, the sister. And, he fucks with her head, and she's obviously got her own issues. Like, she's got an eating disorder, and she's got her own, like, anxiety and stuff. And he just kind of hones straight in on that and starts poking it, and just has this total control over her, like, so quickly.
Yeah.
That it's kind of scary. But it speaks so much to Oliver's character again. Like, he picks up so quickly on what people's weaknesses are and then just exploits them immediately. And fucks with them so hard. And that whole characterization, I thought, and his performance was just phenomenal.
Yeah, Barry Keoghan is cool for sure. Although, in Dirties, we said that they were surprisingly authentic looking for high schoolers. In here, I thought Barry Keoghan just looked way too old to be here. I mean, you can be in university at any age.
At least it's like a university level.
Yeah, but still, like, for the story, for the people that he hangs out with, he seemed too old. In some shots, at least. But
But I love, just as a final thought on Felix, Jacob Elordi's character.
Yeah.
I like how as well, like, you get a bit suspicious of him along the way.
Yeah.
But then by the end, you realize that he's actually just a really nice guy.
It's
like, he's actually quite normal and just nice.
That might be the most shocking, like, plot twist of them all.
Like, there's no ulterior motive or anything to him. He's just trying to have a good time and be a good guy, and he's actually quite kind and everything. But when he finds out that, Oliver's fucking with him, then he's like, okay, I'm done with you. Like, this is not on.
Yeah.
But yeah, what if you put a number on it? What you gonna do?
I think this is a good, solid, strong 8 out of 10 for me. This was a good time. I'm not like hugely in love with it, but I had a very, very good time, and I could see this one, being one of those films where you get more out of it on rewatches, because I really, again, I feel like there's probably a lot of details in here.
Yeah, but I'm the same. I land on like a 4/8. For this one, because I think it's got a lot of really awesome characterizations, and it's really well made and put together, and it looks awesome, and the soundtrack's great and all that kind of stuff. But there are a few little key things, kind of like with the Dirties. There are a couple of things where it just kind of holds me back a little. In this one, it is that kind of just telling a bit too much at times, and I interpret that, which is probably my own projection or whatever. of the film basically saying, look how cool I am, or look how clever I am. I'm going to tell you how clever I am now. And it's like, yeah, we know already. You don't need to tell us.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that. It is clever,
but, chill out a bit. You don't have to be so pleased with yourself. But yeah, solid film, I think.
For sure.
And I'm glad you liked it.
Me too.
So a couple of bangers, really, this month. I think this is one of our best months.
I think so too. Yeah, this was a really, really cool
everyone
matchup.
Enjoying themselves.
Yeah, just a good time all around. Evil wins, and we're all happy. Here we are.
Yeah. Whoa, shit. Yeah.
Fuck.
Maybe we're finding out more about ourselves. Yeah.
Shit. Hey, fiction is there to explore these depths of our personalities.
I mean,
so
yeah. Often the villain's way more interesting than the hero anyway, isn't it?
Very true. Yeah. Shit.
Like, who cares about Superman? Give me Lex Luthor.
Yes.
He's got lore.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, let's figure out what we're doing in the new year.
Right. Shit. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna spin the wheel. In the meantime, everybody that's is still here, as always, feel free to leave your stinky comments wherever you may want to put them. We might see them and might respond. Always welcome to suggest new subjects for a random wheel of random subjects that's determining what we're talking about. And I'm gonna spin this wheel right here today to see what we'll be talking about in the next episode. The next episode is gonna be all about aliens from outer space. Ooh. It's fun. Hell yeah.
Oh my. Yeah.
I'm actually really down for that. Yeah. Also, we hadn't had like such a specific theme in a long time, I think. It's always been more like, it's been more like broad themes, but now we have an actual subject, a thing, a noun.
Yeah, this is way more like a focused kind of genre.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to that, actually.
And yeah, what a wealth of movies to choose from. Aliens.
Lots of freaky creepazoids out there to talk about.
Oh, you're going to find something fucking horror film again, aren't you?
The chances are unfortunately very high. I'm sorry.
That's cool.
No, but really, like, how many alien films really are there that's not horror? Let's be real. It's not much.
I mean, E.T.'s an alien film.
E.T. sucks.
Although that is quite horrific, I must say. Yeah.
Right.
But not in the way that we probably expect.
No, that's true. But E.T. sucks anyway.
You heard it here first, folks.
Big E.T. hater.
E.T. sucks. One of the most successful films of all time.
Yeah, well.
It's shit.
Yeah, well, so are the MCU films, so.
Yeah, you're just so contrary.
I'm a big, strong contrarian. I'm brave.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess this episode will hit right around holiday season, so I hope everyone's having a good holiday season as well. Whatever you choose to do or are committed to or anything like that.
Also,
have some time off, hopefully.
Also, a shout out to everyone who doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I respect that even more.
I still don't know what I'm doing for New Year's, so I don't think I'll be doing much. I never do.
I'm actually planning on going to the most remote and quiet bits of a forest and spending New Year's Eve in peace.
There's that contrarian spirit once again.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. That's me.
You're going to leave your phone at home as well?
Oh, God, yeah.
What's the word? What's the term that the kids use? You're going to raw dog it?
I'm going to raw dog it, sure.
Without any technology?
I'm going to go off-grid, buddy. I'm going to go skibbity off-grid. All right.
Skibbity. Well, yeah, if fellow traveler Matt does return safely to the real world in the new year, we will see you.
Yes.
Yeah, for a January edition.
Exactly.
Otherwise, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Catch you on the next one. Adios.